Well, for instance, what would be the idiosyncrasies that apply across the board to somebody that wants to get better,
Well,
regardless of the sport?
well, there's nothing in the world more important than confidence when you're playing at a really high level if you want to see how good you can be. So, I mean, having ridiculously high levels of confidence is really, really important. Keeping your composure would be consistent across all sports. You know, having a good routine, whether you're a kicker, a basketball player, a golfer, would be really important. You know, I think on top of that, I mean, to even go further back, you better have big ideas in your head. I think most of the people who become great, they really have a vision in their head of them doing great things. And I'd say most people kind of give up on their dreams very early in life or let someone take them away from them. And the strong ones survive it. And it's hard, unless you're a child prodigy, to keep believing in your dreams and believing you're going to do something incredible with your life. But I would say that's a universal. And I think the other thing is having fun. I think as ridiculous as it sounds, you got to get to the top level and still have fun playing a game.
You know, that reminds me, every time I go out to play golf, my wife says, have fun. And I say to her, I only have fun if I play good. Yeah. Now, what's wrong with that statement?
Well, it'd be the exact opposite of everything I teach.
I figured that.
I mean, everything.
That's worth 2 sessions with you, right?
Yeah, everything we teach is that the one thing you own is your mind and your attitude. And in golf, we want the mind to control the ball, not the ball to control your mind. And that's what you'd be doing if you had fun, if the ball went where you wanted it to and went in the hole and it added up right. And I mean, that's the one thing you own when you go out there and play. And some of the time, you get the results you want. But yeah, I mean, most of my players, we're trying to focus on a process and an attitude and let results happen. We're not out there worrying about how we're doing. We're not judging how we're doing. We're not critiquing it. We're just out there playing.
Right.
And what's silly about it, in a lot of ways, is you're trying to get back to the way you played when you were a little kid, where you didn't even know it was important and you didn't think it mattered and you just played golf. And then people started telling you how talented you were and how good you could be. And then a lot of people start getting really serious and get perfectionistic and try so hard to get good that they mess it up. And so that's what we mean.
To have with us Bob Rotella, sports psychiatrist, right? I guess you could say, Bob, golf is a thinking man's sport, and you more than anybody are probably aware of that. How would you describe what you do?
Well, I mean, just to clear it up, I'm a sports psychologist, and my whole life is about studying the psychology of greatness. So I'm definitely not a psychiatrist.
Okay.
I spent all of my training, instead of studying abnormality and getting people to normal functioning, I wanted to learn about people who were above normal and wanted to be great. So it's a very different body of psychology. It's psychology, but it's a totally different knowledge. And you know, I'm trying to get people in the best state of mind they can possibly be in, the best mood they could possibly be in, and catch it when it's a half an inch away from that. Because the people I work with have big-time dreams and ambitions.
You were a college professor at the University of Virginia,
Yep.
and when did you really get jump-started into doing the things you're doing and really working with individual athletes, elite individual athletes, the kind that you work
probably
with?
about 1978. I went there in '76 originally to teach halftime and coach lacrosse. And before that, I coached at the University of Connecticut for 6 years and coached basketball at the University High School. And I did that while getting my doctorate at the University of Connecticut. Sometime around '78, I started working with players, and players started winning, and just word of mouth, it kind of took off. And then in '84, I worked and traveled a lot with the Virginia basketball team the year after Ralph Sampson graduated. And we went to the Final Four with a team that no one expected much of it, and 60 Minutes put me on their show. And I don't know, word of mouth just took off pretty good from there.
Do you see yourself as though being somebody that, when does a player, let's put it this way, not rely on you all the time as a crutch and not have to call you weekly or bi-weekly to you know, sit down and have a session with you?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I certainly don't ever want anyone to rely on me as a crutch, but it's always I started off in coaching, and no one ever talks about a coach as being a crutch and the players relying on him, but they all do.
Right.
And I think everybody out there needs a support system. They need someone who believes in them and is going to be encouraging and supportive of what they're doing and teach them the stuff they need to learn. And, you know, I think my guys and gals have won 56 majors or so at this point. So I've been around it a lot. I've had a lot of people do a lot of neat things. And at that point, you have a pretty clear picture of what you have to do to get better. And you've seen a lot of guys and gals who got worse instead of getting better. And to a large extent, you're sharing that with a lot of guys and gals. And it's a lot of fun, and you build some great relationships. But certainly, you know, I see them every few weeks or so for an hour or so. We talk on the phone some, but I mean, I certainly realize all of these guys could play before they met me. But, you know, we're trying to keep them going in the right direction.
And there's stages, I guess, too. Some are a little more advanced. Some catch on a little bit faster than others, like anything else.
I think you could find every combination of that. I mean, you would see people just go right there and then fall on their head and start all over again.
Right.
You've seen some that go to the top and just stay there and have a ball with it. I mean, you see all kinds of up and downs, but most players, it's a very limited number of weeks where they're just playing. You know, I've had the chance to work with a lot of great basketball players. I mean, I've spent time with LeBron James, Derrick Rose, and a lot of other guys, and it's always fascinating. But they're all the same in that they've had a dream since they were a little kid of doing something really fabulous, and they're on a mission to do it, and somewhere along the line they kind of get stuck, and they have someone that they can be really honest with. I mean, we don't ever talk about anything weird or strange. I mean, everything we're talking about is confidence, concentration, composure, commitment, how to practice, how to prepare, you know, how to get ready. And a lot of them have, you know, they want it so badly that it's easy to try too hard and care too much, and they get in their own way, and you have to learn to get out of your way.
You have it all figured out, though, right? Everybody would love to have the mental approach that you have, or at least is that what players look at you for and say,
yeah,
you have answers that I need?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very comfortable in knowing what the players need to do. That doesn't mean it's not still a challenge to do it or to get them to do it.
And get the ball
I'm still
in the
trying
hole.
to get better at getting them to do it. They're still trying to get better at doing it. But yeah, ultimately it is all about getting the ball in the hole. And when you play really well, you do that really nicely.
All right, pleasure. Thank you very much.